God would send her real answers on the wind. A rustle sounded behind her, and then something dark and scratchy landed on her face. Boo! Joshua's voice. The scoundrel. Always such a prankster. Tayler swiped at the wool blanket he'd thrown over her, but stayed calm and still in her position. Just remember who squeals like a girl when they see a spider, and which one of us has no trouble catching aforementioned 8-legged critters and has access to your bedroll. You wouldn't. His upside-down face held a lopsided grin as he bent over her. She raised her eyebrows. Oh, wouldn't I? He shook his head and plopped himself onto the grass beside her. You're not playing fair. I know. Allowing a smug smile to lift her lips, she sat up. But you're older, remember? You taught me to not play fair, so it's your fault. She tossed the blanket in his direction. His laugh filled the air, and he threw the blanket back at her. Yes, let's remember who is older, young lady. She made a face at him and rolled her eyes. But that doesn't mean wiser or more mature. You know, one of these days, you're going to have to grow up and take on responsibility instead of joking around. Lowering her brows, she attempted to look serious. She adored Joshua. He was the best brother in the whole world, and the thought of him truly growing up made her sad, but she couldn't allow her feelings to show. I'm hurt. I thought you loved my jokes. He put a hand to his chest and played the dramatic sad fellow. With her right hand, she shoved at his shoulder and laughed. If only these days could go on forever. She often heard other girls her age tell of how much they despised their brothers, but from her earliest memories, she'd adored Joshua. He was clever and witty and so wonderfully observant. He had taught her to see the world with different eyes. Hey, Emerson and I are going down to the creek to get cleaned up. And just like that, he slammed the door on her reverie. Just wanted to give you some warning. Dad is working on the fish we caught, so he sent me to tell you that he wants your help. All right, thanks. Why didn't he seem fazed by all the change like she was? We'll be back soon. He tapped her nose with his finger and jumped back to his feet. Don't burn any of my fish, but you can burn Emerson's. She stuck out her tongue and then smiled. Leaning back to gaze at the sky again, she sighed. It wasn't fair. Rolling over onto her stomach, she huffed and then propped herself up on her elbows and peeked over the edge of the ridge to the crystal lake below her in the valley. They were all growing up, whether they liked it or not. The boys were 16 now, and their lives were practically mapped out for them, including the much-expected Harvard educations. If only she were 16, too. Tayler plopped her chin down on her hands and kicked her feet in the air. Mother would definitely disapprove of such unladylike behavior, but she wasn't here on this trip. In fact, she never came, because camping was a bit too primitive for her. And Tayler had heard the hushed conversations between her parents. Mother thought Tayler was getting entirely too old to be traipsing off into the woods and hiking up mountains. In fact, Mother thought her daughter should focus on etiquette and manners, dinner parties, and the arts. But Tayler wanted to go to college. She wanted to study plants and animals and mountains and, well, everything outdoors. She wanted to travel and see the world for herself and maybe, just maybe, even write about it like Lady Bird. If Mother knew Taylor's real plan, she'd probably lock her daughter up for a good long while. Tayler giggled and stood, brushing at her skirt. Her mother wasn't that bad. But it was scary enough to think of telling her the truth. Dad had an inkling of Taylor's desires, but he would never go against his wife. Never. Men might run the rest of the world, but Taylor's mother ran the Hale family corner of it. Might as well face it. She was stuck, at least for now. She headed over to the camp to help her dad cook the fish. There would be plenty of time later to talk with her parents about her future. No need to worry them. Once Joshua was away at Harvard, maybe she would venture the subject with Dad. But that would mean Joshua would be gone. Permanently. Emerson, too. And that thought was almost as horrific as telling Mother. A shiver raced up her spine. If only she could go with them.